Hi, today I am talking to Paul Morgan, who is an A-Level Chemistry tutor. And we're going to just having a conversation about all things about tuition and chemistry and revision. So I hope you enjoy. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Margaret Mary. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm quite excited about this conversation. I've been thinking about it a lot. So should we dive straight in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so my first question about tuition and the current situation, where there's disrupted education in school and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, how do you think that tuition can supplement teaching received in school, even at this time and under normal circumstances?
Yeah, sure. Well, in general, not just in these circumstances, I do like to follow what students are doing in school. I think I know this topic, what we're discussing today is a little bit about revision. Yeah. And if you're following what they're doing in school, then you're almost doing revision weekly. So yeah. I like to ask students, what are you currently doing in school? Are you having any difficulties with that? And a lot of cases, I like to get one step ahead of what they're doing in school. Yeah, so almost the school becomes revision. And they go into that class with a bit more confidence. Oh, I've already covered this topic. And so they can start putting their hands up in class because, I already know this. And yeah, so I think it's, tuition can really help with schoolwork.
Yeah, I think that's my experience too, actually, is that, if they're preparing for a test or they have a homework to do, or I've been doing this and I don't really understand it, then we go over it, that kind of, they relax a bit more. But as you say, the other thing, actually, in terms of getting ahead, if you have a student who is underconfident and they're kind of sitting in the class and going, I have no idea, this sounds like gobbledygook to me, when they've actually had that chance sort of quietly to have that presented to them already, when they do go into class, they're not hearing it from the first time and they're just like, yeah, my tutor was talking about that. I know what's going on here. Definitely. So in terms of students, when it comes to you for tutoring, what do you find are the most common issues that they present?
Yeah, when they're asking for tutoring in the first place, there's something happened. They haven't performed as well in a test as they would like. They haven't been given the predicted grades they would like, that they need for university. But in terms of the reasons behind that, there's a lot of common mistakes usually going on. I don't find students coming to me where they're making completely different mistakes to other students. There's a lot of mistakes and common mistakes, misconceptions in chemistry that you can quickly get to grips with.
Yeah. I mean, again, I find exactly that. Usually there is something that prompts it, that they haven't done as well in a test, or they are feeling unconfident in class. And again, my experience is also that it's quite common misconceptions. And other things that I find, some students might feel, well, I sort of understand it when the teacher's talking about it. And then I try to write my answers and I think I know what I'm doing, but they're not getting, as you say, they're not getting those grades that they're expecting. And one thing I think in particular, I mean, particularly if you're moving from GCSE to A-level, is that the accuracy in the written expression is so much more important at A-level. And, in one word in a key definition that either they've omitted or they've put the wrong word, they've said molecules when they should have said ions, can make all the difference. And they don't always pick up on that. So one area I find myself working a lot in is, well, yeah, you sort of understand that, that's clear, but you haven't said that. So we're looking at really tightening up that level of accuracy.
Yeah, and I think it's also a little bit of just a deeper understanding rather than a surface understanding. And really, some exam questions can really dig deeper than the student's knowledge.
when you're experiencing these kind of things, then how do you work with the students? What's your normal practice, your procedures?
Yeah, so I do want to know what topic they're currently struggling with, or they have struggled with in the past, because I want them to know with that particular topic they can understand it. So, and we'll do practice questions, exam questions on that topic until they're confident with it and they think, ah, yeah, the topic I previously didn't understand, I now understand. And then quickly move on to what they're doing in class currently. I try and get, going back to our previous question, quickly get to match what they're doing in school.
Right. So what you're saying, I think, is that you're consolidating any foundational stuff that's going to be relevant to the new topic that they're covering. So, you might need to go through, make sure they've understood bonding, for example, really, really accurately before you then move on to something else that requires them to be able to explain what's going on in the bonding, and before you move on to that new topic. Yeah?
Partly that, but it might be a completely different topic to what they're currently doing.
Yeah.
They might say, I really don't understand shapes of molecules.
Yeah.
And they might be doing Born-Haber cycles currently. Completely different. But because they know they don't understand shapes of molecules, that's something we can work on there and then.
Yeah.
And once they're happy with that, then we can move on to what they're currently doing in
right.
class.
So even if it's a topic that's bothering them, that you even treat as a separate thing. So it's not just that cumulative, you need to know this before we do that. You may start with a separate topic and then move on to what they're currently doing.
Yes, because it doesn't usually take too long to figure out what they're having trouble with in this particular topic.
Yeah, and of course that tends to make them feel at ease, because I find that it can bother students to think, well, I don't understand that, I didn't get that, and they're kind of stressed because of one particular thing that they haven't covered, and then but once you deal with that, sometimes it's very quick. It is, as you say, very quick to deal with it, and then they kind of relax a bit and the confidence improves. Is that what you find?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That thing they can't do, they can do. And therefore, that thing they really struggled with, if they can now do that, then they can do anything, almost.
Yeah, I agree. That does have an impact. I think one other thing that you said, which I also feel is quite important in terms of my own work and the way that I tutor, is to do past exam questions. I mean, I've seen some research that it was a TED talk actually that talks about, they did a survey and they're basically saying what the top students, the ones who achieve the highest grades for their ability, what they have been doing is practice exam questions, and they really focus on that as being quite important.
Yeah, and not just coming up to exam time, you should be doing exam questions on the topics you're doing currently.
Yeah.
So you're revising constantly up to the exam.
Yeah, and of course that I mean is something I also do, because it kind of because it's the exam type questions, normal practice, it kind of takes the stress out of the exam in the end, doesn't it really?
Yeah, and because they've been familiar with those type of questions all the way through, and so they're just getting more of it come exam time.
Yeah.
But going back to something you mentioned about how's COVID affecting the current situation, well, I'm getting a lot of students contacting me now because they've been done poorly in their mock exams.
Yeah.
Now they've gone back to school.
Yeah.
Which is no surprise when they've had 6 months away from school.
No, it's not a surprise.
So, as tutors, we do have to bear that in mind.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. And they're coming with not feeling confident either. It's quite a shock to the system. I think I do feel for the students at the moment, to be honest, and especially the ones that maybe have taken the exams or are planning to take some more exams in the summer. I do feel for them. haven't experienced anything like that myself.
Yeah, I think the best we can say is just completely understandable not to be doing so well at the moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in terms of, we've talked about the importance of doing practice papers. I mean, what other strategies might you use in terms of revision? I mean, papers, absolutely agree with you. These are the most important. But in terms of maybe helping students learn this stuff, or, you know, what other strategies might you suggest to students that are sitting there at home? I've got revision to do.
Yeah, so like I say, revision, I mean, when you came to me and said we're going to be discussing revision in October, that seems a bit strange because we're months away from exams, but you know, revision should be constant. That's the main thing. And so students should be utilising attending as many chemistry lectures as they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also any questions they're getting from their teachers, lecturers, should be using them as revision.
Yeah.
And their textbooks. Yeah, their textbooks are a very useful resource. They've got end of chapter questions. They've got questions at the end of topics. And quite often those end of chapter questions are past exam questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then if there's any questions they can't do, they should be redoing the chapter, asking their teacher or asking their tutor. But I'm really struggling with this question. Where am I going wrong?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In terms of practice. Also, certainly verification of what they're doing, and to have an expert cast an eye over it. Again, written expression. I think that's one of my things, actually, is written expression. You know, I have students arguing with me, so well, that's what I've written. I says, well, no, actually, that isn't what you've written, and try to explain the other interpretations of what they've actually written compared with what they need to be writing. In terms of looking at revision strategies now, I do have some students who are doing mock exams sort of within a couple of weeks after half term, you know, which is why I'm kind of timing this now, because there are plenty of them. You know, I've got some groups going on this week of students, and exactly because they have exams a couple of weeks after half term, and they know that these ones are important, because just in case we have another situation like last year, they know my school is going to use this exam as evidence potentially, so they are treating those exams very seriously. So, you know, I've got a few groups going on that are doing revision for that purpose. So I just thought, actually, let's have a look at this. Have a look at this now. Definitely.
I think that's important in normal circumstances as well, that every test, every mock is an opportunity to revise.
Absolutely.
And also an opportunity to perform.
Yeah.
And see what level you're capable of. And it's not as stressful a situation as a real exam, so take that opportunity to perform in your homeworks, in your tests, in your mocks, and that will help towards the big exam in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. It's practice, isn't it? I mean, practice, I think, is the thing. So if a student were to contact you to ask about tutoring, I mean, what are they going to expect from that first contact? How do you deal with that?
Lots of questions.
Sorry,
my
brain gets carried away.
No, not from you. I mean, lots of questions to the students.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad.
So I'd want to know, you know, what exam board they're currently taking, what their previous GCSE grades were in chemistry, but also in maths, because there's a lot of maths involved in chemistry. So I need to know what maths support they might need.
Yeah.
Any predicted grades, what we're sort of aiming for. if they've got to that stage, if they've got any university offers, what grades they'll need for that. And as I was saying previously, any topics they'd like to start with, what they're having difficulty with currently.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd add to that?
No, pretty much all of the same thing. One thing, and sometimes this is offered, if the student has done a test recently, again, we talked earlier about how it might be that something has prompted them to come looking for tuition. And it might be the test that they, as you've said, just done really badly and or not as well as they'd hoped. So, you know, if they're agreeable to send me a copy of that or a picture of it, not necessarily so I can mark it. It's not about that. It's for me to kind of have a look at it and see are there underlying sort of general study skills rather than understanding of the content, although that would be something I would take note of. But things like maybe, you know, say you've got a longer response question, and where that student, you read their answer and go, well, actually, I think you understand what's going on here, but it may be that you haven't fully developed your answer. It may be something as simple, a really common mistake is that students they deal with the first command word, but there may be 2 or 3 commands in the question and they miss the last 2 out, and it's just like, you know, you've got 1 mark out of 6 here because you've done the first part, but you actually haven't developed the answer for the next 2. So I would look for, if they sent me the work, look for underlying issues like that to tackle in the session. So pretty much what you've done on that.
Yeah, definitely. That happens quite a bit, where students will send their recent test paper, mock exam, and yeah, you are looking for it for common. I'm looking for it for common mistakes that I see a lot.
Yeah.
So it might be just the use of units.
Yeah.
That they've
absolutely.
used. You know, in the ideal gas equation, they've used decimeters cubed instead of meters cubed or centimeters cubed, that sort of thing. And also in the Hess's laws question, they've used the equation rather than drawing a Hess's law cycle, whereas the equation for that won't just cut it. So things that you can quickly help with, I would say.
Yeah, and those improve the marks immediately, don't they? And would you have a video interview with them, a video conversation, a bit like we're having now?
No, it tends to be over the phone.
Okay.
But say, I mean, I've if I get a request for face-to-face tuition, doesn't happen as often these days, but does, I might say, well, let's have, because they're not sure about online tuition.
Right.
Then yes, I will offer a call like this where we can do a quick online tuition demonstration.
Right. I think I've tended to go a little bit of, if it's someone I know already, again, sometimes it's face-to-face. Again, not in the current circumstances, but and then I would have that phone conversation and then go and meet them for the first session to actually start work. But with an online student, certainly to have a face-to-face like this to discuss all those things that we've just been talking about, and to try and get a kind of sense of that student. And the parent as well, to have them in that first face-to-face meeting.
Yeah, well, I just do online tuition. So I've been doing that for nearly 2 years now. So my meeting would be like this. Yeah.
I have been doing face-to-face, and the online thing is something because of the COVID situation, I've gone online and I thought, this is great. I really enjoy this, which is why I'm coming into this now.
Yeah, I think what converted me is when I first moved to online tuition a couple of years ago, I sort of had a mixture of online and face-to-face students, and I did practice sessions with my face-to-face students and said, oh, we can carry on face-to-face, that's fine, or you can have the online. And they all went for the online tuition. They preferred it.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of advantages to the online. I mean, one thing for sure is that I have all my resources there. So if something unexpected comes up, I can be, hang on, I'm just going to find something, and it's there on my computer, or it's there on some of my online sites, which you can't do if you're face to face. You know, you've literally got the resources you've brought with you. Yeah. You know, and even though I might bring a little tablet with me, it's, unless I'm connecting to their internet, it's not always so fast. I live in a rural area, so definitely online has advantages. Of course, you're not having to travel, and you're not having to, they're not having to rush around and tidy up the house, or you're not in the dining room when mum's cooking dinner, or dad's, you know. So absolutely.
Although the face-to-face students I do have, or did have, that are now online, I do keep saying to them over the internet, well, where's the brew and coffee, the coffee and biscuits I used to get?
Yeah. Yeah, I had one student last year face to face, and oh, his dad made just the best coffee. You know, I had no right to be drinking coffee in the evening after school because it always kept me awake, but it was too good to resist, to be honest. Yeah, there's that advantage to the face to face sometimes. I agree. So just the last point, because I think this is an important one, maybe students don't realise what goes on, but you know, when a student then calls you, you know, on results day or afterwards, because sometimes they forget, but when they call you and say, oh, I got my grade, how does that feel as a tutor?
It's mainly relief.
Relief.
I don't know if students realise you're as nervous as them coming up to the exams.
No, I don't think they do.
And obviously we didn't have, well, the exam results this year were a bit strange.
Yeah, they were.
There was, but one good thing was when they said they were going to go off mock exam results, all my students would have been fine because they performed in their mocks.
Yeah.
So that was a relief at the time when they said they were going to go off mock exams, because my students had performed in their mock exams.
Yeah.
So it was nice to get the messages about that. But in usual circumstances, it's great when you get the messages that they've achieved that grade A and they're going on to do whatever they wanted to do at university, to study medicine or engineering or pharmacy or whatever.
I love that too, and I do agree with you. There is a sense of relief, and then just comes this joy when you realize that, you know, when they're saying to you, this really helps me, thank you, and that's brilliant. I love that feeling. It's such a brilliant feeling when you know that student is then able to go on and do what they wanted to do, you know, where they might have been a bit iffy on their grades, but through that work that you've done together, they're then able to go on and achieve and do what they want to do in life. I think it's great. I love that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really enjoyed it. It's really helpful just to touch base with someone else, and just that's quite affirming. Actually, it's quite affirming to know I'm doing that too. Yes, so thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.